Hi, everyone, and welcome to Topic 1, Lecture 1, How to Become a Critical Thinker. If you look on the right hand of the screen, you see our textbook, Becoming a Critical Thinker. So let's get started with the lecture. Let's see here. There we go. When you look up the word critical thinking, if you get a Wikipedia page, this is from a Wikipedia page. I don't like to use Wikipedia, and we'll talk about that as the class goes on, why we shouldn't use Wikipedia as a resource. But there is a great basis to get some information. So critical thinking is, I love what they say here. It's a self-directed, self-disciplined, self-monitored, and self-corrected thinking. The key word there is self. So in order for us to be critical thinkers, we really have to bring it upon ourselves. We have to want to do it. We have to know the skills. We have to learn the skills, and then apply the skills and then check ourselves as far as, based on the information I know and the skills that I use, am I making the right decision? Yes or no? So critical thinking becomes a decision-making process. In our textbook, critical thinking is defined as someone who uses specific criteria to evaluate reasoning, form positions, and make decisions. That's what we're going to do within this class. We're going to look at what the criteria is that we're going to evaluate. What is the specific criteria? What makes some information more applicable and what makes not so believable in evaluating our reasoning, form positions, and make decisions. Sounds really simple, but it's not, because many times things that come into our decision process happens to be either our own beliefs, our own values, media, friends, anything we hear out there from other sources. So that's really the criteria we start to investigate. Case in point. So first of all, let me start with the cartoon here, because this cartoon has to do with the story. And when you get on your resources, you can go ahead and go to the CBS vaccine story. You'll get some information there, and you'll watch a story and see how much the media has to play in decision making. So this cartoon here says school science fair. You have a little girl here working on the volcanoes and the little boy with water and the pH levels. And then you have a little girl, the experiment, right? Health of my community. My mom did not vaccinate me, so let's see what happens. Well, this story came about because of a study that was actually published in 1999 by Dr. Wakefield, Andrew Wakefield. He conducted a study and found a link, reported to have found a link between the measles vaccination and autism. And this went on and got published in this medical journal. People read it. Parents, of course, were, just very aware of it because it was on the news. It was in the newspapers. It was on the radio. Every form, even online, you can find out information about how these vaccines are causing autism. Well, of course, parents don't want their children to have autism, so they chose not to vaccinate their kids. Long story short, 11 years of this, 11 years after, there was a lot of testing trying to replicate the study, and doctors all over the world found that they could not replicate the study. They found that Dr. Wakefield's study was actually not legitimate. It wasn't truthful. It was so bad that the journal where this was published a retraction 11 years later, and even Dr. Andrew Wakefield lost his license completely. He is not allowed to practice medicine. So science went ahead and proved him wrong. However, the damage was already done. Parents still did not vaccinate their children, and even now there's still a controversy of whether you should vaccinate or not. So we want to be able to learn to be critical thinkers so we can ask the right questions, so we can make better decisions for our own safety and our own health. So let me go ahead and go on to our next slide here, because that's going to tell us about the skills that are going to help us be a critical thinker. So the skills that we're going to be covered in this book are how to structure an argument. And that's actually our first skill that we're going to be talking about in this lecture. The value assumptions and reality assumptions that are foundations for arguments, or to arguments, and then the quality of evidence used, that's where we're talking about the criteria, to support our reasoning, common errors in our reasoning, and then the effect of language on perception and the way in which the media frames issues. So that's what's going to be covered in this textbook, and what I hope to cover throughout this whole time that we're in the summer class. So the first part here is foundations of an argument. There are 3 sections, and so there'll be 3 sections in this lecture. The first one has to do with the structure of an argument, and that has to do with issues. So there's 3 parts to an argument: issues, conclusion, and reasons. This video right now will only talk about issues. So let's talk about issues. Arguments, first of all. Foundations of arguments. Which of the following is not one of the characteristics of a critical thinker? So I'm going to read these choices and see where you're at, and then I will tell you the right answer. So, which of the following is not one of those characteristics of a critical thinker? Is it A, they read a lot, B, they recognize the issue under discussion and vary conclusions about the issue, C, they use structure of an argument to make thoughtful decisions, or D, they understand the structure of an argument? So I'll give you about 5 seconds here. See if you can get the right answer. So if you said A, they read a lot, that is correct. Reading a lot, a critical thinker could read a lot, but that is not one of the characteristics of why they're a critical thinker. So let's go on to, what is an argument? Well, when we think about arguments, we usually tend to think of arguments as metaphors, as a win or lose situation. We like to think of them as wars. So look at these metaphors here. Your claims are indefensible. I demolished his argument. You disagree? Okay, shoot. We get into this defensive. Think about when someone's trying to make a point with you, whether it's a point at work or even in your family, oh, you're not on my side. Go ahead, tell me why. But we're really not listening. We're already in our defensive state. So what we're going to do is, in here, we're not going to talk about arguments as a win or lose situation. We're actually going to focus on arguments of what an argument truly is for a critical thinker. An argument for a critical thinker refers to a conclusion, which is a claim, supported by reasons. So if you're yes or no on a topic, on an issue, then you're going to give me your reasons and about the particular issue in question. So let's start with the first part, which is the issue. What we are arguing about, make it a question. That is our issue. So if it is not a question, it is not an issue. The issue is the subject that we are discussing. Current issues. Should we reopen the country? Should we wear masks? Should people be required to wear masks in public places? Those are issues because they're forming a question and they have some controversy to them. You can use the same principle of finding the issue in commercials and in your personal life. So in just a bit, we're going to watch a commercial, and I want you to see if you can find what the issue is. What is that question? In your personal life, you have issues all the time. Should I take that job? Should I take CRE 100 in the summer or in the fall? Should I take this class or that class? Whatever it is. Those are personal issues. So now, whenever you find the question, know that that's the issue. So let's look at the commercial in this next slide and see if you can find the issue in this commercial.
What's that?
Reese's Take 5 bar. Chocolate, peanuts, caramel, peanut butter, pretzels.
Never heard of it.
Where have you been? Under a rock?
New to me.
What, were you born yesterday? Raised by wolves? Are you clueless? Head in the sand?
That's offensive, Trish.
Yeah, Trish.
You from another planet?
Trish, none of us have heard of Take 5, so who looks stupid now?
Reese's Take 5.
Oops,
The best bar you've never heard of.
So I paused it a little early there, but if you heard it, the issue is Reese's Take 5, the greatest bar you haven't heard of. So is Reese's Take 5 the greatest candy bar I've never heard of? That's the issue. So let me go on to our next slide here. So now we want to look at this riddle. When is an issue not an issue? When it's a topic. So if we had in that commercial just the topic Reese's candy bar, that's a topic. Maybe we're going to write a report on how it's made, where it's made. Those are just topics. But that topic, that idea or that subject can become an issue when it's a question or a controversy. The greatest candy bar. Is it the greatest candy bar I've never heard of? The next slide, I'm going to show you an example of that. So we have our cell phones. Cell phones is our topic in blue. You can write reports about cell phones, different cell phones out there that are being sold, cell phones, the history of cell phones. It becomes an issue, once again, when you have that question that is requiring a decision making or that controversy. Do cell phones have too many applications? Are cell phones a danger to our health? Should cell phones be allowed in the classrooms? Should cell phones be allowed at school? Could cell phones detract from our safety? Those are the issues based on that topic of cell phones. So let's look at how the issue is composed, and this is the beginning of that argument. So now we know what an issue is and what it is not. So let's review. For an issue to be formed, you start with a topic. In the previous slide, the topic was cell phones. You ask a question that becomes your issue. Should cell phones be allowed in the classroom? You list your reasons, your premises. These are the yes, they should be, and here's all the reasons why, or the no, why they shouldn't be. The conclusion or the claim is what you are using to stand on. You're saying, yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. And remember, the conclusion is only reached by your reasons. So that is a skill to practice when you're reading. When you are reading, ask yourself the question, what is the issue at hand? If you can't ask that question, put it in the following statement. The issue is whether blank or blank. You want to give yourself a purpose for reading. What is the author trying to tell you? What are their reasons? And what's the conclusion that they came up regarding the issue at hand? So now let's talk about another skill that you can use. This is a skill in communications. When you are communicating with someone and you have an issue that you are discussing, you want to make sure that everyone is discussing the same issue and bring the discussion back on target when necessary. This is a critical step in making sure that we get to a resolution and a conclusion for the issue at hand.